Black holes is quite an old idea that I had probably from when I was a teenager, and when I was compiling tracks for the album I went and looked back over some of the old lyrics, and Black holes was a lyric that I took out and had a look at and refined, and I thought it was something that would work, the concept. And it actually came from a history book we read at school, which basically talked about how in history we kind of just think about the monarchs and the war heroes, and we forget about the millions and the trillions of people that have died throughout the history of human civilization, and they just kind of get forgotten. So it's kind of about that, and musically, I guess coming from the 90s, it was music that I rewrote, but it's kind of got that 90s grungy, Nirvana, Pixies kind of vibe about it, really bass driven, kind of some spiky guitars, and I think that kind of fits well with the idea of the theme. Dead End Disco Streets is quite stylistically different from a lot of the other tracks on the album in terms of it's kind of more pop, it's got a bit of a disco drum feel to it, and I guess I wanted that because of the lyrical content. It's a song about kind of modern living and being stuck in things like work and desperation, but how music and dancing can lift you out of that. So I guess that comes through in the kind of more pop nature of the song. Follow the Light is probably one of my favourite songs, I guess primarily because it came literally from nowhere. I was in quite a dark place at the time, and I was letting people and things bother me, and I guess I was at a point in my life where I knew that music was a way out of that, so the easiest thing for me to do was pick up my guitar and start writing. So Follow the Light was the song that came out, and I think it came together in probably 5 or 10 minutes. And I demoed it straight away, and it's pretty much still in the same form as when I wrote it, so that doesn't happen very often, so that was quite pleasing. And the lyrical content it's really about never giving up, never taking rubbish from people, and always trying to stick to what you believe in. So I really wanted to write something positive to kind of take me out of that dark place, and I hope that works for other people as well. The Finest Hour is the only track on the album which isn't completely written by myself. So the lyrics were written by Luke Townsend primarily, and then I added some bits in afterwards. But we used to play in a band together, and he presented me with these lyrics, and I guess they're primarily about the disillusionment with modern politics, and kind of when you're growing up, as you get older, you start to notice the things that bother your parents, and you kind of become more drawn into this harsh reality of the adult world, really. And the older you get, the more of this political life you see that's not particularly pleasant. So it's really about that. The music I put to it is another track that's quite inspired by my love for the Manics, and you probably hear that in some of the guitar work on it. But yeah, it's quite overtly political, as you will hear. Last Angel's another track with older roots. The lyrics were something that I began when I was much younger, and I was still suffering with depression. And it's written from a female perspective, and it's basically about the idea of giving up on life and letting go, and then the impact that has on the people you leave behind. So I guess looking back on it now, as someone who spent a lot of their life thinking that they probably wouldn't make it into their late 20s or 30s because they thought that they would probably end up killing themselves, looking back, that was probably a bit of some kind of suicide note from myself that thankfully never came to pass.
this grand scheme.
The album is obviously a mix of emotions, light and dark, you know, happy and sad, but I was very keen that the album finished on a positive note, especially with obviously the previous track, Last Angel, being quite dark. So the obvious choice was Starlight, which was a song that I wrote a few years ago for Alison, my wife, and it's probably the hardest song I've ever had to write, because normally I just sit down with the guitar and whatever comes out, but on this occasion I knew that we were getting married and I'd never written a song for her, so I knew that I had to do something. So I had a specific brief, and it took months and months of writing terrible songs before one day, I think it feels like it was a sunny day, sat in my garden, Starlight came out, and it's just kind of about, you know, the positivity she's brought to my life, and I wanted the album to finish that way because that's kind of the journey I've been on, the change in my life, and I hope other people kind of feel that positivity from the song and the album as well.